how did you become homeless? What was your life before you losing and having a place to stay?
I had a comfortable life. I am a qualified hairstylist. What happened was my husband passed away suddenly. He had a massive stroke that left him brain dead. And I was just very depressed. I just isolated myself from the world. And I think the real knock came when my dad died. You know, and then it was like I had nothing then. I had my mother was still alive, but when my dad died, it was just so heavy, you know. And then I couldn't afford my place anymore, my house.
So you had stopped working in that dark time when
Yes.
you were mourning. You
Yes.
just couldn't work. Okay.
Yes, and you know, it was a very, very, very bad time of my life. I didn't know when I was coming away. I didn't even know how I was feeling. You know, I was taking pills that was keeping me going, and they weren't really keeping me going. And I eventually moved in with my eldest sister. And, you know, it's your family, and you're supposed to be okay with it, with him and that. But it wasn't them, it was me. I felt like I was a burden
So you lived with your older sister.
after I lost my place.
How long? For how long did you stay with her?
It wasn't long, not even 2 months. But, you know, I always felt that I was a burden, I was in the way of, you know. And one morning we had some words, and I just decided to I just wanted to walk. And I ended up, I took a bus, and I ended up at Red Cross Hospital of all places. And I remember going in opposite by Woolworths, and I wanted to get me something to drink, and the next minute I know I wasn't feeling well. And when I opened my eyes, I was in Tourist Hospital. And they told me that I had an anxiety attack. And they kept me there for a couple of hours. And when they discharged me, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do, I didn't know where to go. And I was sitting on this bench, and there was this newspaper laying there, and at the back of it was CCID and the field workers and how they can assist you. And I randomly chose a man by the name of Dean, and he took me to Napier Street, Haven. And yeah, and I stayed there for a while until one of the supervisors decided that he started sexually harassing me.
Okay. So you knew you weren't going to go back to family, so you sought out a shelter.
But only to run into something that I didn't want to be in.
For those people who've never been in a shelter, who don't understand how it works, describe what it's like to be living in a shelter as a woman on her own.
It's not the easiest thing, it's scary, it's very scary. In the beginning it was okay. You know, I made friends with these two elderly ladies, Oma Susan and Oma Connie, and it was okay. You know, I was trying to get on my feet again. I wanted to work. I applied for EPW jobs, you know, and I eventually got a job at the fire station, an EPW contract. But you know, to be in a shelter, look, it's people from all different backgrounds just thrown together. And you know, some will say please, others won't. Some will say thank you, others won't. And to hear people refer to the homeless people as that thing and that ding, there it started to really, you know, I couldn't understand how these people could be working for a homeless shelter and they have no love for these people. It's a cold place. you're there and they in the beginning they're nice with you, and then all of a sudden they just, like, they change their attitude towards you, and then they start with your 2 weeks of living for free is finished, you need to start paying shelter fees, which isn't a problem. It's 10 rand a day, it's cheap, but 10 rand a day is cheap if you have 10 rand. Here I never even had 5 rand, or 2 rand, and they wanted the 10 rand.
At what point did it click in your head, or when did you realize, or when did you start realizing that I'm a homeless person? It was never part of your plan in life, never something you had ever envisioned for yourself and your journey. You are qualified in your profession, married, living a normal life. And at what point do you think, is this real? Is this my life? I'm homeless.
I think we I really realized that I was homeless. At that point, my life meant very little to me. It was when that supervisor started harassing me, and I would complain to the people that worked with the other staff, and nothing was just done to it. Nothing was done about it, because it was a homeless person's word against a homeless person's word. You understand? And in cases like that, the homeless person is always fine, you know. But what he got it right by a lot of others, but he never got right with me, because I knew my situation. I knew where I was, what was happening in my life, because I think being at the shelter made me see things for what it was. You understand? And you know, I just told myself, no matter what, I am homeless. I know my family is gonna freak if they find out, but you know what? I'm gonna have to go through with this. I was gonna have to go, because if I knew for 1 second, if I knew 100% that all those people on my contact list, if I knew that I could go to them, I would have. But I didn't. I didn't know that I could go to them, because I was messed up. I was depressed. You understand? And I wasn't doing something to help my depression. You understand? I got myself off from the meds, but I wasn't doing anything else. So yeah, realizing that you are homeless, I think, is the scariest thing ever. And I won't say I was embarrassed about it, because you know what? It was happening. It was real. It was real. I didn't choose it. It happened. You understand? Nobody chose to become homeless. Thank you.
So then you're telling me you encounter these problems at the shelter, somebody is harassing you, abusing you, they don't really take it seriously. Did you leave the shelter?
Yes.
What happened then?
Yes, what happened was the Sunday before I'm supposed to start the Monday at the fire station in Blunt Street, and as I'm coming from church, from Hillsong Church, as I'm coming down the road, it's like 9:45, and we must be in 10 o'clock. So he closes the door in my face, and then he locked me out, and I just out. And yeah, so luckily for me, I knew people out that were sleeping outside by the shelter, so I used to give them food, and they kept me safe, because I promise you, if I hadn't known that people, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And the next morning when the social worker came and she saw me sitting outside and she asked me what was going on and I told her, then only they confronted him about it. But it didn't make anything better. You understand? But at the shelter I met a guy by the name of Edgar. Edgar was a gay man and we hit it off immediately. He ended up becoming my very best friend ever. And Edgar had left the shelter by then. And by the time I left, I came here to look for him.
So, okay, so for those who don't know, we're in now the company gardens in Cape Town. Did you leave the shelter to come live in the gardens?
Yes.
Because you knew somebody that had been living here?
I knew somebody that was living at the shelter with me,
Okay.
and I knew that he was here. And I was taking a risk because the people homeless people don't stay long on a place. You understand? But I had to see because I couldn't take it at the shelter anymore. I wasn't coping.
Explain what it's like what a day was like living in the gardens. Did you have belongings? Did you have a structure? Did you have to find things to make a structure? How did you find your spot? You know, for somebody who probably walks up and down here and doesn't think twice that this is actually Carin's home.
You know, in the beginning we had like this. It was a big pipe. It was just a huge pipe, and we would crawl in and we would just see that it's closed on both sides. We would get this black cell, people that bowled in, that bowled. We would get there and we would just cover it. And then one day, a friend of mine, Chantal, a lady I met on the street, she gave me a pop-up tent. I can still picture Edgar. He was so impressed with this thing because everybody was busy making their homes, and yeah, he could just throw it and it would pop up, you know, everything. And I lived with Edgar for like something like forever. He was my best friend, you know, and you know we would get a cardboard, which is very important because that's our mattress, and we would go around looking for cardboard, especially when it rains, because then we must put something under the tent and all that. And then we'd always look for plastic, because plastic must go over, or we put it in between the cardboard. Plastic keep you warm also. And you know, strange how I adapted to that, because I had a certain way of packing it, and it wasn't comfortable. I'm lying here, so it's comfortable, but you know what? It kept me warm. I can remember one night we slept, both of us had these council blue bags, and we got into the blue bag because it was so cold. And believe it or not, true to what Edgar said, the plastic was going to keep us warm, and it did.
And as a woman, what is it like then to try and still have some sort of dignity and clean yourself and go to the toilet and take care of yourself when you are a homeless person? What were you doing? How do you do that?
You know, the worst part of being on the street in Cape Town is that there's no toilets that's available. There isn't. So, to be honest, I have a terrible bladder problem because of that. I would keep in my pee till the next morning, you know. And what was worse was the cold water. There was never hot water. You know, especially you used to lay in the bath, and there just wasn't hot water. Funny enough, when I got the chance to take a shower, I couldn't handle the hot water. It was like it was hurting my skin. But the one thing I learned on the street He said, sunlight soap is a good cleaning soap. Not just a laundry soap.
No. So then, how you've adapted to now this life? You've moved out of the shelter. You're staying in the company gardens. How did people treat you when they looked at you? They saw a homeless woman. Did people treat you differently? Did they even see you? How were you and your fellow homeless community treated by ordinary residents?
There's one thing that Edgar forced on me. You make your hair right, you dress, you say that you clean. You look at things that I was used to doing. And because he was so hard on it, it wasn't always, people never always knew that I was homeless, you know. There was a time that I can remember when I went to stand in the food queue and the guy actually told me, I'm sorry, this is just for homeless people. But there was times when, especially when my stuff was taken, when I would have to walk with the same outfit for a week or two, and this is worse, and people would look at you funny. People would look and talk, and people would like throw remarks like they want to live like this and they choose to live like this. They mustn't support beggars and things like that. And I can remember a lady coming one day and she gave a piece of chicken, but you can see it's like she ate on it. And as she walked away, a friend said something and she said, beggars can't be choosers. And I told her, no, beggars can be choosers. Because I'm sorry, that is just who I am. You understand? But people were, let's put it this way, the dogs treat you better than the people. Company gardens, the dogs treat you much better than the people.
Were you ever harassed? Did you ever feel like your life was in danger? I mean, we hear of gangs, we hear of crime. As a woman that's homeless, what were the threats to your life when you were living on the street?
There was people that used to come from their areas and the townships, and they would come rob us. And I can remember one night, we told CCID that they mustn't leave because until these people go, but this man didn't take note of me, he just rode on, and when they left, all our brothers and this guy was going on, and they were like pulling us around. They came in my tent, they took the lights that we had there, and they never saw me, but I took the cash that I had and the phone, and then as I was walking out, the one decided he's going to chase me. And it's strange, eh? I ran past all these people and nobody stopped. Nobody asked me if they can help me or nothing. And I can remember just around the corner back Hawaii, I fell and this guy came and he searched, he searched me. He searched me, and it was a very horrible experience. And I can remember this one guy, shop owner, the salt shop owner, said, he came and he asked me, what did you do that these people are doing this to you? And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean, what did I do?
They are the wrong ones.
Yeah. But others never used to get the blame, you see. Even if you go to SEPS with a complaint, they would ask you why are you sleeping outside? When Ramiz, my partner, was stabbed, it's drunk kids, drunk school children. They were throwing boulders on our tents. They were kicking people off the benches. They were hitting people with buckles in their faces. They made Opa Lennox undress him and go on his knees by the pond. And you know what? When Ramiz was laying there and bleeding, There wasn't a law enforcement, there wasn't a CCID, there wasn't SEPs, nobody. The policemen working at Parliament, they're the people that found the ambulance. He had to have emergency operation, everything. Not once did anybody come and ask him what happened. And he didn't need to go out, but our neighbor at the time, Connie, her son, was there for the school holidays by her, and he just came the day before. And imagine I had to throw a bolt on that thing. But we still get to blame. Whether they kill us, whether they hurt us, it's irrelevant, because they're going to ask you this, they're going to ask you, what are you doing sleeping outside?
What would you say to people who hear your story and they think, yeah, Marwena, Carin, you've got family, you've got family, so why don't you just go stay with them? What is it that is preventing you from staying with family? Because people will say then, this is what people are going to understand. They're going to be like,
No,
Carin was choosing the street if she's got her family.
I suffer from depression. I would never have said this like I'm saying it now, because I never wanted to admit that I suffer from depression. You understand? And I cannot put my nieces and nephews to the hell that I go through. You understand? I cannot do that to them. That would be unfair. I can't say that my sisters and my brothers is gonna understand how I feel at days. You understand? I don't always feel the same. I don't want medication because of medication that I'm so missed. You understand? I'm trying to do this my own way. And I can't put children through that. I'm sorry. I'm not prepared to let my family suffer because of me. You understand what I'm saying? My family has offered me, and I've told them I can't for the mere fact that the life I had prior to becoming homeless was fake, man. The people was fake. You understand? I experienced real life. I became homeless. These people that I greet, they became my family because they're real. You understand? They're real. They talk about how they feel. They talk about things that bother them. I can't sit with people and just talk about how I feel. I can't even, I can't even see a therapist because I won't be able to open up. I think that when you've got so much things that needs closure, you can't live with family. You know what's going to end? How it's going to end up? We're going to end up being angry with each other. And that's the last thing I want.
These words, as you are talking, it sounds, to me, it talks to the fact that you are a strong woman that wants to be independent, that still wants to take control of her life. That's what it sounds like.
Always. That's one thing my mother always, she engraved it in our brains. If a woman is independent, she don't need nobody. My mother always used to say that. And it's the truth. You know, I used to, for the almost 10 years that I was on the street, I never sat once on a bench and begged and asked people for small change. Not once.
In over 10 years?
Not once I asked anybody for small change. I would go at night when when the traders are busy packing up their stuff on Green Market Square, then I would pick up their beads that they drop, and I would come and I would soak it, and the next morning I would sit further down in the avenue and I would make bracelets, whatever, and I would sell that. That was my income. That was my income. I never used to beg, but I don't know what it is to beg. I don't even think I would ask anybody, because I'd be too shy. You understand?
So now, Carin, you were one of the people who brought the first application against the city to stop them from fining the homeless. Just tell us about that. How did that come about? You just actually we came from that spot. When were you fined for the first time? When did you realize that this is what the city was doing? How did you decide then to push back?
See, what happened was, we were forced out of the gardens, right? We were forced out here, and I ended up there. And, you know, for somebody to come and not come into where you are staying, but to stand at the fence, and you have to jump over a fence and come to by that person, and then that person right out the fine and says that they're fining you for littering and dumping. But that person wasn't even near where you were. And for me it was an insult. It was an insult because anybody, I give out black bags to people, man. You understand? Because if we want people to take us seriously, we must also do out. But you understand what I'm saying? But here this man comes and he insults me and he tells me that yes, he's giving me a fine to listen and I need to break down my tent and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, with him giving me that fine, the first thing that went through my mind was I was going to go to jail. A cop told me one day, because of, we couldn't sit on the grass by the gallery, but other people could sit there, but homeless people couldn't sit there. And I was arguing with him about it, and he told me, you know what, Carin, this is the last thing I do. I'm put you in Paul's more, he told me one day. And you know what? It was like what that man said was going to happen, because how was I going to pay a 500 rand fine? Where was I going to get the money to pay a fine? And then everything just it started to work on me. My days went by with a fine. That's all that's on my mind. And then one day I was at the Hope Exchange where we washed in the morning. Then I heard Ian Weir, he used to be the social worker there. I heard him talking about a meeting they having regarding the fines. But initially I thought it was like a meeting for everybody. Yeah. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go to this because I am worried about it. And unfortunately for me, it wasn't a meeting for everybody. It was the Street People's Forum and all these NGOs and NPOs that help homeless people. They got together to discuss the problem with the fining. And it was weird sitting amongst all these people. But what was worse was, how do people sit and discuss a problem, but there's no homeless people there?
Then what happened at that meeting and then after that meeting?
At the meeting, we were told, I was told that Community Chest was going to get a lawyer. They were speaking to some lawyers, but they were going to get a lawyer to handle the fines. And then about a week later, Ian called me and Ian told me that I must get the fines together. But by that time, law enforcement came and they took my stuff and they actually took their own fine back with them again. It was so funny. But they didn't, I wasn't in the clear yet because
it still exists.
Yes.
When you say they took your stuff, what did they take?
They took everything I owned at that time. Everything I owned. They made a habit of doing that.
Like what things are you your
My
position?
jewelry that I make, my ID, my bank card, my bottom dentures.
What?
And my bottom, and I'm telling this man, can I just get that bag, my dentures and my bank card and that stuff is in it. And he told me, I'm sorry, the stuff is going. He told me he's gonna tag it and then I can go fetch it. When he was that, when I asked him now, where do I go to? And so he asked me, what are you talking about? As if I was like crazy. But they make a habit of doing that. But yeah, but in any case, then what happened was then I met Lucian Luen. I think that's the first person that I can say that I truly trusted on the street. I've got severe trust issues. I got major trust issues. And you know, Lucian, everything he said, he would do, he did. Everything he said, he would do, he did.
With regards
To the case.
To the case.
Yes.
Okay.
Look, when we went to court, like to stop the fining, because guess what? The joker, at the end of the day, the joker is actually on the city because a lot of people never gave their real names. So they're going to go out there looking for people that isn't even on the street. Unfortunately, I've always had my name has always been, I can't think of even another name that I want. So, you know, since I became homeless. But a lot of people, when they become homeless, they change their names because a lot of them don't want to be found. And I guess they're going to have to look for a lot of, but, you know, when Lucian said that he was going to help us to stop us, his teachers that day, I can remember, you know, the way I never slept on one spot. I never used to sleep on one spot like every night. I just chop and change all the time because they were always around. They were even if they don't see me, then like that time CCID and law enforcement used to work together. Then they would CCID's people would ask the other homeless people, where am I, and things like that. That is why we ended up sleeping by the reservoir, where we paid the security to sleep in the room. But then they found out, and then everybody had to leave.
So you worked on the fining thing, Lucian came through. Now you've got other bylaws that you want to scrap. What are those bylaws?
Well, you know, the homeless, the fact that they say homelessness is illegal. Right? You must remember one thing, these laws have been around forever. I actually read it up when I read the affidavit, and the words just changed. It's like they're still keeping us hostage with the Dutch and then the apartheid, but it's still there. It's like they wanted to keep the African person. They wanted him on one spot only, and these people didn't want to be on one spot. So now they're using those laws with the homeless people now. And we are human beings, man. You know, we are human beings, and you can't want to talk about changes and democratic South Africa and all that, but then you're still living on laws of the apartheid. Those bylaws were supposed to go up for review long ago already. That's the only thing that they have, that they use, that they can use. They've been doing it. They haven't been fining all these years. They haven't been fining people all the years, but they have been like chasing people around.
Harassing people.
Yes. Imagine you sleeping in the middle of the night, like somebody cuts open your tent or your sheeting and they pull your cardboard out from under you and it's storming. And they tell you that you can't sleep here, don't you know homelessness? To be homeless is illegal in Cape Town. How do you tell 14,000 people that to be homeless is illegal.
What can they even do about it at that moment, those individuals?
See, they never come when it's a beautiful day. They never come during the day. They always come at night or in the middle of the night.
When it's raining and storming.
That's their favorite weather.
So now, what is your situation right now? You're no longer here at the company gardens. You're no longer at the reservoir. So tell me, what is your living situation right now?
I left Val Park a week before lockdown last year, and I lived in Plumstead, an NPO that I used to make jewelry for. Super Troopers, I worked for them. When they told me that I must stop making stuff because they can't afford it anymore, they took me to YMCA Cape Flats. Now, let me tell you something. That is one place I did not want to be. It's a camp. It's in the middle of nowhere. I didn't want to be there. But let me tell you something. I miss that place when I'm in town. It's there where I think it's there where I found my peace. You know? Ricardo and Natalie, they run the place. And for the first time, I was told, you don't have to give us no recognition. We don't want you to even mention us. Natalie would always say, Carin, you did all the hard work in this. You know, it was there where a lady by the name of Miriam Manak. I met her even twice, but we Facebook friends. She bought jewelry by me, and she gave my late friend Netta clothes one day. And she asked me one day for my email address, and I gave it to her. And I'm waiting for this woman to contact me, and she's not contacting me. And then the Hardy boys from Durban contacts me, and they tell me that they got a campaign they want me to work with them. Unilever. But that time it was COVID, it was terrible. My jewelry wasn't selling, so the next best thing was making masks. And I knew nothing about masks. My best friend, YouTube taught me everything I know.
Yes.
And then she, you know what happened when I did the campaign, it was a sunlight campaign. They flew me to Joburg, first class girl.
Yeah, Carin, that's a whole other story. And so that was
That's a turning point for me. You understand? Because then they got me a shop in Seapoint for 6 months. They paid my rent by YMCA. So yeah.
So right now, things are a bit better for you. Would you still classify yourself as a homeless person? Are you in transition? What's happening with you right now?
I'm still a homeless person. I don't own a home. I don't have a home. It's going to take me a while. Put it that way. It's going to take me a while to say that I'm not homeless.
So what are you hoping for your future? If you could give me some forthcoming attractions on what you're hoping your future will look like, what you dream for yourself, what is that?
Well, like I told you, I work with the beads and stuff, and over this past 8 years, I've created my own style, and then what I would like to do is I'd like to empower. My thing is not about, I don't want to have a shop and earn money have money and that. I want to empower homeless women. Because too many homeless women, because of the situation, they get prostituted, they get, people use them in a bad way. You understand? And I want to empower not only women, men also, because there's quite a few of them that I taught that walk in camps and sell this stuff. You understand? I would like to empower them because nobody empowered me. If I didn't have great friends like Edgar and Danny, both of them passed away. But if I ever had friends like that, then I don't think I would have even left the street, because one of the promises I made Danny was that I was going to leave the street. You understand? Because he saw what was happening. But I'd love to empower, I'd love to, I lived it, man. Put it that way, I lived it. I lived it. I have a taste of what hell is all about. And if I can help somebody and make that hell a little better, then I would love to empower people. I'd love to empower women especially.
It seems like right now, as we find homeless people pushing back, fighting against the fines, pushing back against bylaws, forming groups, it's as if that there's a movement starting or a voice that's coming from homeless people. Am I right?
Yeah.
And where does that come from? Where did that come from, even with you, to not just accept what was happening, but to actually find that voice and do something about your situation?
You see, prior to COVID, people were tired, man. They were tired of the brutality. They were tired of being verbally abused. You understand? I think amongst the homeless people, we just said we had enough. But then COVID happened, and lucky for me, I wasn't at Strandfontein, but my friends were. And they went through hell there. And it was at Strandfontein that the Homeless Action Committee was formed. And what happened was a group of us met with the Street People's Forum, and we decided to form a coalition. But this coalition includes the service providers, the Street People's Forum. They don't exist anymore, they're part of the homeless coalition now. But what is happening is homeless people is going to have a say, their voice is going to be heard. They will be able to say, this is what is happening. Not where somebody just says, I was told that this is happening. It must come out from the top. We have voices, why can't we use it? These educated people on the street, people with degrees and that, and we can stand up for ourselves, we can speak for ourselves. And, every time people have this thing of saying they can imagine what it's like. You can't. You have to live it to know it. You can't imagination can't take you that far. You understand? And for once, homeless people will be able to say, this is what we want and this is what we don't want. Because all these years, we have just been, they don't ask us, we must just accept whatever they throw our way. If they decide that you can't sleep here anymore, you sleep on a spot for 6 years. And then they come and they tell you must move away. You can't be here anymore. You understand? Then we must just accept it. If we don't, then they arrest us, they take our stuff. You get what I'm saying? But for once, we're going to be able to say, this is what we want. You understand? And the main thing that we want is We want homeless people to be recognized as human beings and treated like human beings, not like animals. Because I promise you, the dogs that walk down here in Government Avenue, they get treated better than what the homeless people get treated.